So again, this morning, we will be discussing the review of related literatures and studies. We will discuss its importance and the purpose or purposes why we need to make one. And we will also discuss the different types of literature review and also identify the different strategies that we can utilize in writing the complete RRL in our research paper. Okay, so let's start. We have here the first one. Let's define first what is a literature review. Now, when you say literature review class, we are not just copy-pasting information from our sources to our own paper. It's not about that. Okay? When you say literature review, we are going to look for information which are related and relevant to our own research topic. And then we are going to analyze this information. We're going to evaluate this information. And how do we do that? We can either summarize them if masyado silang marami. And we can classify them if they belong in the same like category or theme. And we can do comparisons, especially for related studies. We can compare methodologies used by different authors. If they have the same topic and they use different methods, or we can also compare the findings of their study. Okay? After saan ang RRL? After siya sa scope and delimitation. Okay? Again, you are going to write this after the scope and delimitation in the introduction. Okay? So yan yung literature review class. We're going to read the information, the theory, or whatever we are reading that are relevant to our own research and write a review about that. Okay? Bawal ang copy-pasting dito. That is called plagiarism. Okay? Now, we have two types of review class. We are going to review conceptual literatures and also related studies. So what's the difference between the two? When you say conceptual literature, these are data-free or non-empirical material from whatever source. It can be coming from a book, a journal, or in internet, printed or material published online, whatever, kahit saan nang galing. Basta data-free or non-empirical material. What do you mean by that? Walang data coming from an experiment, walang data coming from an investigation, walang data coming from a direct observation. Okay? It's just an article, a write-up about your research topic. Okay? So sabi ko kanina, kahit saan nanggaling, whether it is foreign or local, pwede yun siya as long as it is not a product of direct or actual investigation or experimentation by the author. Okay? So what are the sources of our literature, our related literatures? We have here the almanacs, information coming from the books, dictionaries for definition of terms, encyclopedias. So encyclopedias, diba, most likely compile information coming from different sources also. But it's not a product of a direct investigation. When I say direct investigation, yung author mismo ang gumawa ng experiment, siya mismo yung gumawa ng observation, siya mismo yung gumawa ng survey. So definitely meron siyang results, whether it is numerical or linguistic. So yung ating literatures, walang ganon ha, walang ganon. Walang numerical data, walang linguistic data coming from a direct investigation. Okay? Handbooks, pwede din sa internet, like if you are searching for what is COVID-19. Okay, so you will have a lot of information about COVID-19 in the internet. You can even read magazines or newspapers. As long as it is data-free or non-empirical, it is called related literatures. I really need to give a review of this sa inyo since when I sit in as a panel sa senior high school na yung anong tawag doon, defense, ang napansin ko kasi the format used in senior high is nakahiwalay yung like local literatures, foreign literatures, local studies, foreign studies, and parang nagkakapalit-palit. May mga studies na nalagay doon sa literature and then the other way around. Other literatures are included in the studies. So we really need to define and differentiate that too. Okay? Okay, Neri. Now, how about the studies? Ito yung empirically based. Meaning yan, ito yung may product talaga of a direct experimentation or a direct investigation. So dito mahuhulog class yung mga thesis, scientific papers, dissertations, whether published or unpublished, whether coming from an online or a printed source, foreign or local, as long as it is a direct product of investigation or experimentation. And that means you have class either a numerical data here or a linguistic data. Under yan siya sa related studies. I hope walang magkakapalit-palit. But actually, hindi naman, ang format naman natin sa college when it comes to our RRL is hindi naman na hinihiwalay yung related studies and related literature. So that's okay. Yung problema ko lang talaga sa senior high, pag nagbabasa ako ng related literature, tapos maano din ko pa yung study man eh, tapos under siya sa related literature. Okay? Sige. So what are the sources of our related studies? Siyempre, sabi ko kanina, thesis, dissertations, pwedeng thesis or study or dissertation published in the internet or published in an official research journal. Pwede yun siya. And mga survey reports. Okay? Diba like sa election last year, this year na election, maraming mga organizations who conducted survey. So yung kanilang results na nakuha doon is like under yun siya, magiging under siya sa related studies if gagawin natin siya, kukunin natin siya as a reference. Okay? So yun yung dalawang nire-review natin, literature and then we have studies. Now we have the so-called gray literatures also. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng gray literatures? These are researches class that can either be published or unpublished. Most of the time it's unpublished, but if it is published class, it is published in non-commercial form. Hindi talaga siya published like in an official journal. Wala lang, na-post lang siya doon sa internet kasi pinost siya ng author. Ganun, gray literature yun siya. Or kung unpublished siya, yung mga thesis natin from the previous batches na nasa library, for example, under yun siya sa gray literature. So again, ano mga example doon? Mga thesis and dissertations. Ano kaya mo ito? And then, mga government reports, policy statements and issue papers. Ito lahat, mga results ng survey, maps, mga newsletters and bulletins, diba? They're not really like officially published. Mga gray literatures ang tawag natin sa kanila. But the big question is, are these accepted in a research paper as a reference? The answer is yes, you can still use them as your reference in writing your paper, even in the RRL section. If not published, that is still okay. Pwede pa rin malagay sa RRL niyo. Okay? Yung mga thesis natin sa library, for example, may nakita kayo thesis sa library na gumamit ng the same procedure that you want to use also, you may use them as reference. You may cite them as reference. Though it is under the gray literature, pwede nyo pa rin yung gamitin. Okay? Kasi pag ano talaga, like related studies talaga, related literatures, they are published in official journals or official websites, example, website ng government. Ito kasi, they are most likely unpublished, and kung na-publish man doon sa mga unofficial sites. Okay? Pero again, pwede pa rin. Yeah, even though thesis siya, pwede pa rin ilagay as a reference. Okay? Kung meron silang part doon sa thesis that you think is relevant to your own study. Okay? I will have you later sa pag-determine kung ano yung credible source and ano yung hindi credible. Okay? So, before that, let's talk about why do we need to do a literature review? What are the purposes? So, syempre, number one, for us to gather a lot of information about our research problem or research topic. If our research topic is about COVID-19, we need to know a lot about that. What is already published, what is already known about COVID-19. We need to gather those information for us to find out more, for us to learn more about our topic, and that will help us what to do and what we are going to do with our research paper. Okay? Now, we may also identify gaps in literature. When you say gaps, class, ito yung parang missing link, missing area sa isang research topic. Example, COVID-19. Ano pa ba ang hindi na pag-aaralan sa COVID-19? Ano yung kulang na information sa lahat ng mga na-publish online or sa mga printed materials? That's the gap. Okay? We may identify that if we do literature review. And that will actually help us. Identifying the gap will help us decide on what to study. Kasi hindi nga siya na-studyhan, so pwedeng doon tayo papasok. Kasi hindi siya napag-aaralan pa. So, struggle is real. And we may also identify people na nag-study ng the same study with us. And we may identify like mga seminal works, yung mga important works that anong tawag dyan, nakakontribute ng masyadong maraming information about a certain topic and nag-influence marami about your topic. Yan. And at the same time, we do literature review because we need to have a proper methodology or a proper technique on how to gather our data. We may, kung ang study natin is a descriptive study, we may look for available questionnaires online, and we can evaluate it if it is also applicable in our study. And if it is, then we may adapt the existing questionnaire. Okay? Or kung sa experimentation naman, syempre class, we are not allowed to make our own procedure, laboratory procedure. Unless na lang kung ang study natin about sa paggawa talaga ng experimental procedure, new experimental procedure to discover things. Pero if not, ang ano talaga natin sa research is to use yung proven na and scientifically accepted experimental procedures. Okay, sige Janine. So yun yung isang reason why we do literature review. So we may also do comparisons of like existing studies that are related to our research topic to know what are their methodologies and at the same time to compare their results. Kasi baka naman yung isa positive yung result niya, yung isa negative. So we will compare ano yung mali, ano yung tama, ano yung pinagkaiba nila, baka iba yung methodology nila and so on. Okay? And that will help us in our research also. Help us decide kung anong gagawin natin sa ating research. Okay? So those are some of the reasons why we really need to do a literature review. So when you do your RRL class, syempre you need to gather information. So you have to tell your readers what the theory is all about, or what is the information that is already published about your topic. Now, if it is a related study, it's a research class or a thesis or dissertation, you really have to give an information to your readers about the methodology. How do the researcher do things? How they gathered their data. And you may also inform your audience or your readers about the research gap. So sabi ko kanina, a research gap is like an area or a topic na insufficient yung information. Kung meron kang research problem, itong area na ito, hindi pa talaga siya totally na pag-aaralan. So we cannot really give a definite conclusion or yung definite outcome niya talaga, hindi mo pa mabibigay, yun siya ang tinatawag na research gap. So pwedeng pumasok ka dyan sa research gap para masagot na ang mga unanswered question. Okay? Now, we have types of literature review. We have evaluative review. From the name itself, evaluative, we are going to gather references and evaluate them. Kung pwede din tayong mag-evaluate whether they are credible or not. We will evaluate their methodologies used, if tama ba or hindi, meron bang weakness doon or strength ba talaga nila itong methodology nila. We can analyze their results. Okay? So most likely, magpo-provide tayo ng discussion of the literature in terms of their coverage and yung contribution nila sa body of knowledge. That's evaluative review. Pero most of us are actually doing exploratory review. Like we explore a lot of reference and then ano natin siya, ang focus natin is to widen the scope, to widen the things that we know about our research topic. Yan yung mostly ginagawa kasi natin exploratory review. Okay? Pero you can do evaluative review also. Huh? You may always do that. Now, instrumental review, this is focused more on the methodology. Okay? Na hahanap tayo ng references wherein the methodology can be adopted in our own research paper. And then if we will look at it if talaga bang applicable or hindi. Pag applicable, syempre, susulat natin siya doon sa paper natin. So you may do everything. You may evaluate current or existing research studies when it comes to their, especially their findings of the study. Most of the time, we do exploratory review. And for you to, for help sa inyong methodology, no, you also do instrumental review. Okay, before we move on with the sources of literatures, do you have questions or clarifications? Wala. Okay. So, let's move on to the sources of literature. Sa English class ninyo, I'm assuming na na-discuss na ito. Pero we will just have a review also of this para ma-refresh sa inyo kung ano ba yung mga different sources natin of our literature. So, meron tayong tinatawag na primary literature. Anyway, again, first, we have primary literature. Ito yung parang original piece of work or yung first occurrence of piece of work. Sila yung original talaga na nag-conduct ng study na ito. Sila yung original na nag-survey, nag-conduct ng observation. Okay? So, this is created as close as to the original event or phenomenon as it is possible to be. So yung mga reports of surveys, for example, yung mga conference proceedings, thesis especially, and mga data from the experiment, all of them are considered primary literatures. Okay? Kasi again, they are the original piece of work for that certain topic. Pero, pag subsequent publication na of the primary literature, syempre doon na siya mahuhulog sa secondary literature. So example, journals. Yung gumawa ng journal, hindi naman siya, ibig sabihin siya din yung nag-experiment noon. Siya din ang nag-conduct ng survey or siya din ang nag-conduct ng observation. So most likely, kinumpile niya lang yon yung mga different research natin. So secondary literature na lang siya. And then books also, yung mga nakalagay sa books natin, example, medtech books. Maraming information dyan over a topic. Pero yung author niyan, hindi naman siya yung gumawa ng experiment. Okay? Bale yung experiment ng iba, findings ng iba, inumpile niya sa libro. Okay? That's a secondary literature. That is also true for newspapers because they don't really have, most of the time, they don't have the first-hand information of the phenomenon or situation. So most likely, they will just make a news, interview other people na merong first-hand experience. And yung mga articles and mga books wherein the authors class give their own interpretation or give their own commentaries doon sa result ng iba. Secondary literature na yon. Yung tertiary literature, most of the time, we call this as search tools. Kasi the goal of the tertiary literature is to help us easily find and locate primary and secondary literatures over our research topic. So, bale parang nagsasummarize lang sila or nagsisynthesize sa galing lang din sa secondary literature. So parang ikatatlong publication na ito kasi 'di ba the secondary literature is a subsequent publication of the original work. Tapos meron na namang isa dito na nagsulat din siya ng kanya pero yung reference niya is yung secondary literature na. So magiging tertiary na ito. And most of them again are just search tools, parehas ng bibliography, yung mga indexes natin and abstracts, pagbabasahin natin sila, parang ano lang talaga siya, compilation lang din ng lahat, saksak sinagol na primary and secondary literatures. Our encyclopedias are doing that also. Like they write information about the topic and they are not the ones who investigate it. They just also get this information from other subsequent publications. Okay? That is also true for our textbooks and references. Okay? So ito yung mga pwedeng literatures na kunan natin para mabuo yung paper natin. Na pag alam na natin yung ano yung i-review, syempre gagawa na tayo ng sarili nating literature review. And these are the 5 key steps. We have 5, isa-isa ko siyang discuss ha, but to summarize this first, syempre you have to search for relevant literatures. Pag naka-search ka na, i-evaluate mo pa. Hindi yung pag nakakita ka na automatic, ilalagay mo na siya sa paper mo. Kailangan class, mag-evaluate ka talaga, especially for its credibility. And then, identification of themes, debates, and gaps. Pag na-identify na yan, magplano ka sa outline ng or structure ng iyong literature. And lastly, pag okay na lahat, that's the time you start writing your own RRL. So for the first step class, you search for relevant literature. Pag meron na kayong topic, you make a list of keywords that you're going to use in searching. Especially nowadays that most of our references are coming from the internet. Kailangan alam mo kung ano yung hahanapin mo. Okay? In searching though, in the internet, you may use Boolean operators. Yan yung tawag natin sa and, or not. Either ang purpose nito is to widen the scope of the search or to limit it, especially if meron mong lagyan mo siya ng not, you can limit the scope kung ano yung ilalabas niya na mga references while doing the search, okay, for the relevant literature. Now, pag search mo, example, COVID-19, ayan, maraming lalabas na references, but again, you have to evaluate, okay, and select the most credible source. How do you know that it's a credible source? Class, in the internet, okay lang kasi tayo with the printed materials, no, with our books and other journals. Pero sa internet kasi maraming nag-e-exist na fake news. In the medical world, we have the medical claims and myths. So kailangan talaga natin siyang i-evaluate. Now, in research class, ito yung mga credible sources natin, yung mga nag-end sa .edu, that is considered a credible sources. Remember, edu is an educational institution. The site is owned by an educational institution. Pwede din namang .gov, like our FDA, Food and Drug Administration, that's www.fda.gov. Okay, that is owned by a government agency. That is considered a credible source. And you may also explore websites na nag-end with .org. Pero you have to, to check kung what kind of organization is that. Okay? Is that an official organization or something? Okay? Now, ano yung mga most likely magdadalawang isip tayo? Yung mga .com class, masyadong marami yan. Hindi lahat ng .com ang ending credible yan. So, you have to read first the information na sinulat nila in their site. And if diskumpiyado ka, you may look for other source and compare the two. Okay? Compare nyo yung information na nakalagay doon. And even the .net. .com or .net, kailangan pa kayong mag-double check with the information na sinulat nila in their site. Okay? Now, after evaluating the credibility of your sources, you have to take note of the things, of the information about your source to properly cite them. So you need to take note of the name of the author, the year of publication, the title of the article, and so on. Okay, kailangan nyo yun siyang i-take note para naman maayos din ang parenthetical citation natin and maayos din yung ating bibliography or yung ating references. Okay? And then step 3, identify themes, debates, and gaps. Siyempre, meron na tayong sources, nag-evaluate tayo, binasa natin yung mga articles na yon, whether sa book, mga printed materials, or galing sa online source. Hindi ka basta-basta class na, kani okay ni, appeal ko ni siya sa akong papel, dili nga na. You have to identify first like mga trends and patterns. Ano ba yung mga popular or mga yung parang influential na mga information na makikita mo sa lahat ng mga sources mo. Tapos mag-identify ka ng themes para i-group mo sila together. Kasi masyadong maraming sources and most of these sources are talking about the same thing. So ito, example, COVID-19, sabi niya, the patient will experience like this one. Ito naman ang source, ito naman yung magiging experience ng patient pag nagka-COVID-19 siya. So pwede mo siyang i-group together as one theme and pwede mo siyang ilagay as signs and symptoms. Okay? For example, ganun ha. So para hindi ka magsaksak sinago tapos magbasa ka sa imuhang RRL, nag-jump ang imuhang topic. Okay? You may also identify debates, conflicts, and contradictions among the written information. Okay? Para alam mo din kung ano yung atake mo doon sa isusulat mo na RRL. So that is also important, especially for like related studies. Kailangan mo kasing tingnan yung findings nila kung magkapareha ba or hindi. Pag hindi, you need to discuss that one in your own RRL. Okay? And you may also identify pivotal publications, yung mga influential theories or studies na nag-change ng direction sa field or sa research problem mo. And yung gaps. Pwede mo ding i-take note yung mga gaps para masali mo siyang i-discuss sa RRL na ito yung mga ito yung mga known na information sa topic mo. Ito yung kulang pang information. Okay? Para klaro sa readers mo, nag-gap yun siya na research. Okay? And then, pag na-identify mo na yan lahat, you will have the step 4. And sa step 4, we are going to outline now the structure of our literature review. Now, by the way, we don't have like a prescribed length of our literature review. Okay? Wala talaga tayong dapat 10 pages siya, dapat 10 articles, or walang ganon. It's up to you. It's up to your research problem. Okay? Depende na yon sa research topic ninyo. But you may choose from the following strategies on how you are going to write your literature review. Pwedeng chronological, thematic, methodological, or theoretical. Pwedeng isa or combination of these strategies. I'll give you examples later. I'll show you studies na gumamit ng chronological na way and then thematic. Yung sa methodological kasi, parang on the end part na lang siya of the literature review na magsusulat ka about your method. Okay? Pero bulk of that will be placed in the methodology section kasi nga i-adapt natin yung method na yon. Okay? And then yung theoretical, most of the time this exists in the theoretical framework mismo. So most of the time, ito yung dalawa ang pagpipilian or i-combine, chronological or thematic. Okay, so for chronological class, wait lang ha. Okay. Bakit? For chronological, you will just arrange the information you gathered in chronological order. Pwede siyang general information about your topic and then you discuss it and then you move on to the specific things about your research problem. Okay? Or pwede din siyang specific ka muna, discuss ka dyan ng mga specific things about your topic and then you will end with a general statement. Okay? Ay, wait. Ganagsan ko na. Ayan. So, this is not just copy-pasting ha na o kani information isulod na ko ni diri sa ako ang literature review tapos kanina po isaksak na po na ko din na hindi siya ganon. And this is not just simply listing or summarizing everything. You need to you need to consider like patterns and turning points or debates with all the information na inyong nakuha, and at the same time you may also give your own interpretation of how and why certain developments occurred. So ito yung example class ng, wait lang ha, open ko siya, ng study na gumamit ng chronological na strategy sa paggawa ng literature review. Wait a minute, I'll open it. I'll use the same research na I showed you last time for continuity. Bigay ako ng sample paper last time, continuity lang. Okay. Wait. So this one, diba ito yung shinow ko sa inyo last time, yung study nila Abner. The medical fake news and fear-mongering during COVID-19 pandemic, the impact on the vaccine confidence among the millennials. Let's look at their RRL. So ganito lang ang format ha. Please do not use chapter 1. It's introduction. And then after that, you look at here, scope and delimitation. And then after scope and delimitation, you have the review of related literature. So kung nakita nyo class in your screen, baba ko ha, diretso-diretso lang talaga ang RRL nila. As in, kailangan mo siyang basahin lahat. Okay, diretso-diretso yan. Masyadong mahaba, no? Pero they really wrote this one. All of the informations they collected, talagang sinulat nila ito. So like they arrange this in a chronological order depending on the topic that they want to discuss, but they have made all of the information as a coherent whole. Okay, masyadong marami yan. Pila na siya ka-pages. Pero na-discuss nila ang kailangan nilang i-discuss na about sa research nila. So like this one, they started with the discussion of the millennials. Who are the millennials, etc. Okay, so marami silang nilagay dyan about the millennials. Nag-discuss sila kung ano yung nakuha nila. And then they moved on to COVID-19. Okay, after the millennials, they moved on to COVID-19 kasi this is fear-mongering and fake news during COVID-19, no? So ito yung nangyari daw sa COVID-19, ito yung mga, nasali na dito lahat ha, literatures and studies. Nasali niyan siya dyan lahat. Nakita nyo, may iba, may mga numerical data kasi they are, mahirap kasi basahin, no? Kasi masyadong mahaba ito. Kulang yung time natin para basahin ang whole RRL nila. Pero this one is a chronological strategy. Okay? Tapos, after COVID-19, parang development na no of the topics nila. After COVID-19, pinasok na nila na during COVID-19, maraming like fake news na naglalabasan online. Okay? So, yun yung mga parang, especially the internet, maraming, ito yung naging source of like things or information about health. So, pinasok na nila yung discussion nila about yung mga fear-mongering and mga fake news. So, actually, they have identified it here, mga fake news and mga fear-mongering. Okay? And then sa baba, actually, if we are going to read it, since this is about chronological order, they discussed vaccine confidence. Okay? Vaccine confidence ang sunod nilang diniscuss. Okay? So, medyo mahaba. So, they just arranged this one in chronological order. They discussed a lot of topics there. Pero this is not just about summarizing and listing information, ha? Talagang nag-arrange sila ng topic with all the patterns and key points, key debates sa topic nila. And if you're going to read it, they also provided interpretations to some of the things there. Now, most of the studies in our institution actually used the thematic strategy. From the name itself, thematic strategy, we are going to use sub-themes here or sub-classifications. Merong mga, pag titingnan natin yung RRL nila, nakahiwalay-hiwalay yung mga topic. Parang may mga subtitles. Ganon. Okay, that's thematic strategy. So for example, the studies about migrant health outcomes. Tapos nag-identify sila ng different themes like this one, healthcare policy. Tapos nag-discuss sila what healthcare policy is, and then language barriers, and so on. So bigyan ko kayo ng example talaga in our institution na gumamit naman ng thematic strategy. Right. The same The same study I presented to you last time. Let's look at the knowledge, attitude, and practices towards face mask disposal amidst COVID-19. I showed you this one last time when we discussed the introduction, but let us look at their scope and delimitation, RRL. Okay, so this is their RRL. They have a little introduction of what is written in this section. And then as you can see, they have this like subsections or sub-themes in their RRL, or we call it subtitles. Okay, so like they first discuss demographics and face mask disposal. Lahat na ito, literatures and studies, andito na. Pero nakaseparate siya by themes or by topic. And then they have it here, COVID-19 outbreak, and so on. Okay? Face mask as mostly used PPE. So parang ano siya, hindi siya tuloy-tuloy na paragraph na talagang i-connect mo yung previous one to another one, kagaya ng sa chronological order. Ito, wala talaga siyang connection between this paragraph to another, kaya nilagyan nila ng title. Okay? This is called a thematic strategy. And most of the panelists in our institution prefer this one. Mas prefer nila ito kasi madaling hanapin. Like if they want to just read something about a certain topic, hahanapin lang nila based on this one. Okay? So again, yan yung thematic strategy. Okay? And then we have methodological na strategy in writing the RRL. Ang ginagawa naman dito, this is more on the related studies na part, wherein if you're going to write the findings of the study, isusulat muna natin kung paano nila kinandak yung study, how they gather the data, that's their method or their technique. Tapos i-compare natin yung mga results, okay? Results ng kanilang investigation. So i-discuss natin yan siya in our RRL. Pero kung if you're going to look at the paper in the institution, most of the paper contains also the methodological strategy. Okay, pag nag-discuss na sila ng related study, talagang magiging methodological strategy siya. Kasi i-compare na natin ngayon and results and conclusions sa different methods na ginamit with the same topic. Okay? And then theoretical, again, we mostly use this in our theoretical framework. I have discussed sa inyo ano yung theoretical framework class. It's the part wherein we are going to identify the theory or the model, concept, or laws where we are going to anchor our research. So we are going to determine who postulated the theory, and we will discuss the part of the theory which is relevant in our research. Okay? So theoretical yun siya. Lalagay natin yung talagang part of the theory that is very relevant in our research. Now, if you have decided what strategy are you going to use in your RRL, then you may start writing it. And writing the RRL is just like writing an article in your English class. English class, you have the introduction na part, the body, and the conclusion. So sa introduction na part, that is where you introduce the topic that you're going to discuss in that section, in the RRL section. Just introduce it, that you're going to discuss these things. And then sa body, dun mo na ilalagay lahat ng information that you gathered from your sources. And if you have chosen the thematic strategy, then you may have to use subheadings, just like my example a while ago. And lastly, syempre, all articles have a conclusion. You will be writing a synthesis of the most important information that you have gathered from all the sources that you have. And you have to highlight their significance or their importance in your research. So just like this study class, actually makikita mo talaga ito sa study na ito, since they use the thematic strategy, They have a little introduction before starting with the discussion. They have here the introduction, this is the body, and actually they have the conclusion here in the ending. Definite kasi no, kasi talagang makikita natin kasi nakahiwalay. Yung kanina kasi sa study ng fake news, tuloy-tuloy. Ito yung conclusion nila in the form of a synthesis. Okay? Ang synthesis class is just getting all the key findings or your important information from all the sources above, and then you highlight them here, and you explain their significance in your research. So sa kahaba-haba ng RRL, ito na yung summary niya. That will be the conclusion of your RRL. So in the body of your RRL class, you may do summarization of all the information, or you may synthesize some important points there from your sources. Or you may analyze and interpret, especially on the related studies. Analyze to your result nila, and you may also give your interpretation if possible. Or you may critically evaluate references wherein in your own RRL, isulat mo ito yung information na nakuha ko sa source na ito. And magbibigay ka ngayon ng evaluation mo, ano yung weakness ng source na ito and ano yung kanyang strength. Okay? So, yung body of our RRL class is dapat written in well-structured paragraph. You may use transition words para magkaroon ng connection ng one paragraph to another paragraph. Okay? So that's all for the RRL. Do you have questions or clarifications, or wala pa, kay sa sunod na lang mo mangutana kapag ka kanang naana mo yung research topic. That's all. That's all. Pero taas kini siya. This one is the most lengthy part ng paper, ang RRL. Limit ng pages, wala. It's up to you. It's up to your research problem. What else? Wala na.